All right. Today on the program, an update on the VIX and where we stand. We do have VVIX up today. We'll talk about that. And I want to talk about some missed opportunities from the trade ideas that I put forward over the last week. I put forward some trade ideas that I didn't actually participate in, but I kind of wish I had now. So that and more coming up next on the Short Vol Show, somewhat live.
David Lincoln Productions.
Information contained in this video is for educational purposes only. Everybody's financial situation is different, so some strategies covered in this video may not be appropriate for you. Trading in leverage products is risky and should only make up a small part of an overall investment strategy. To become a better trader, you need to take personal responsibility for any trading losses. Views of people being interviewed are not necessarily endorsed by this channel. We try to present many opposing views and let you decide. David is not a licensed financial advisor and is not trying to sell you anything. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thank you there for that. So, welcome back to the show. So we have a continuation of the up move and the sell-off in UVXY with the VIX dipping below 15 here. Currently, the VIX sitting around 1471. And let me move out of the way and we'll take a look at this. Okay, so VIX 1472. VX, that's the front month, 1575, and the second month, 1737. And you can see just by those numbers, you've got one with a 14 handle, one with a 15 handle, one with a 17 handle, that we do have a steep amount of contango between those two numbers. And in fact, contango approaching 10% right now. As we take a look at the term structure chart here, we can see 9.78% is what we're registering for contango right at this moment. And let me actually give you the right chart there. And there we go. And that is the highest contango we've had in some time. Now, I did get a question on Twitter saying, does this increased contango mean that UVXY is going lower or higher? And that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. Contango and the term structure is not predictive of what's going to happen in the future. This is just showing a measure of what is happening right now. And so these futures are relate to one another in this particular way that forms this shape. And this gives us some indication of the level of decay from contango that we can expect in UVXY. Now, remember that UVXY is actually based on an index which moves around, and the index is going to be what people actually make markets around. However, these futures are inputs into that index, and so when you do see contango steepening, that is going to be reflected in the index. So our current position is doing well. To refresh your memory, we are long put spreads in UVXY, and it's showing, because there was bad marks yesterday, it's showing us making $754 on today. About 200 or 300 of that is good marks. We are showing a delta of short 238. So with UVXY down 75 cents, that would, that should translate to about a $180 maybe positive day. The numbers are larger than that just due to the fact that these Greeks are not entirely accurate, and also we had bad marks on the position last night. By bad marks, what I mean is that the spread, which the majority of the position is this November 24-28 put spread. and this spread that we paid $2.32 for, it got marked at $2.17, something like that, overnight. And the marks don't really reflect the markets all the time. It just happens that they widen these options out, and it ends up getting these prices that I would surely buy more if I could, paying where this was marked, paying $2.17. But nobody would sell it to me there. That's just where it gets marked. Every day it gets marked a little bit differently, but it doesn't change the value of your position, because as soon as we reopened, things came back into line again. So so the majority of this position is long the 28-24 put spread in November. I am also short a little call spread in October, and I actually, with the down move, I kind of hedged this call spread that I was short. I'm short the October 27-30 call spread, and I kind of hedged it by turning this into a condor. So I sold the 23-20 put spread this morning against it, just because I felt I should do something to capture this down move slightly. But that spread doesn't change our delta that much. I actually turned around and bought a couple more of the November put spreads with the money that I received from selling this 23-20 put vertical here. And if you are following along with the P&L for the account, we can go to that now really quickly. So here's the P&L for the account right now, and I did take out $180 or $200 from the account a couple days ago. So that is with a withdrawal as well of a couple $100. I had put a couple $100 in to get us above 5,000 a couple weeks ago so that we could sell calls, and I just took that money back out again. So P&L is doing okay right now. Let's talk for a second about some missed opportunities, because it's very frustrating. It happens to everybody where you have missed opportunities in life. I know my dad has always talked about this opportunity he had to buy some property in London, and he had an opportunity to buy this property for £70,000 back in the day, and now it's worth several million pounds, this property. So he's always regretted that. You know, as a trader, we're always going to have regrets. I did want to talk about one specific thing. We had talked about this RH calendar a couple days ago, coming into earnings, which I believe were yesterday after the close. RH, we were looking at the it's up 7 right now, but what we were looking at was the October SEP 160 call calendar. So we were buying the October. We were talking about buying the October 160 call and selling the SEP 160 call against it. And let's see what the delta shows on that. Let's see what the price shows on that right now. So this did gap up a little bit, but it didn't move very much. In fact, I think it moved less than the expected move. So it would have been a winner for us, I believe, but let's just confirm that. So if we were to buy, I just want to see what the midpoint is of this call spread that we were looking at. It was the OC SEP 160 calendar. So, yeah, it went up from, I think the price, I'd have to look back, but I think the price was somewhere around $2.50 to $3 for this calendar. Now the midpoint's $3.95. So you would have made probably 25 to 30% on that trade. So would have been a winner, decent winner there. The other big one, though, is AIMT. We were talking about having this position with the puts, and my idea was to buy these put calendars, and then knowing that we'd make a lot of money if it was to gap down, to lean long against it by selling extra puts. Well, it did pop $2 today in the session, and it popped like $1 and something yesterday in the session. So this is really coming into this big binary event at the end of the week, with a big move to the upside. And the question, I guess, is, has the has this been leaked somehow, the results, because definitely positive action in the stock right now. But AIMT has as I understand it, a drug that deals with peanut allergies, and there's a conference where they're going to, an outside authority is going to make some sort of recommendation on the viability of this drug on Friday. And it appears, and look, on heavy volume today, the stock is way up. So it appears that the news may be good here. And the position which I had on for a little bit, I did take my position off for a profit, but the position I had on for a little bit would have made money on this up move here. So missed opportunity, it happens to everybody, but it's always frustrating to see those missed opportunities. The other one, of course, is one that we've talked about many times on the show before, which is this Mallinckrodt MNK. If you look at this one, it has rebounded. Now, I'm talking a lot of times about how I was happy to have gotten out of this one and actually chastising people for buying it, paying around $150, saying be careful. And it has more than doubled since then. However, I still would caution people about this one because they have hired bankruptcy lawyers and maybe their prospects have brightened up a little bit now, but still, I'm happy that I did get out of it when I was long this at like 15. So I'm happy I got out of it then. From riding it from 15 down to 1, if it goes back to 3, it still wouldn't have been a huge victory for me. It's still better that I had laid off it at the time. So Mallinckrodt looks like maybe they have dodged a bullet on their problems and maybe going to bankruptcy for the moment, but I definitely do caution people, if you're long this one, to maybe take this as an opportunity to get out. Now, of course, since this could be that one that actually is a turnaround that works out and goes back up, but most of these cases like this don't turn around. So congrats to, I know there's some people out there who I've been in contact with who have made money or who are long this. Congrats to you that it's come back a little bit. I would exercise caution, however, moving forward on MNK. And this is the one who makes the drugs that I was addicted to for some period of time. All right, so let's take a look one more time at the VIX, and we're going to go here to Twitter for a second. Now, a friend of the show, Matt Thompson, came up with this tweet, which is interesting observation that the VVIX is up with the VIX down today. VVIX currently, if we go back to that one, VVIX currently up 2, I believe. Let's see, VVIX up 229, indicated 96.41, and that is significant because that means that there are buyers in the VIX options on the VIX futures. So maybe we can let's try to go quickly to barchart.com here and see if we can get more information on exactly what's trading in the VIX futures. And actually, we could do that also on Thinkorswim. If we go to Thinkorswim, VIX, pick a month, and we can see on time and sales what's trading here. And let's see, so November 19 calls, we've got, it's a spread, traded at 942. Let's go find the spread. It can be illuminating to actually look and see what trades are contributing to the VVIX moving one way or another. And let's just see if we can get down here. So to 942 and see what the spread was all about. So let's see, 942. Okay. So 20,000. Okay, so SEP OC 19. So it looks like they're rolling their calls out here. There's also a seller of SEP 17 calls at 65 cents, which is within 1 minute, so probably related here. So SEP 20 calls, looks like they sold 2.5 SEP 17s and bought 1 SEP 20. So that is not a bullish trade. However, let's look at this other thing. OCNOV call calendar, it looks like here. So they bought, it looks like they bought the October, sold the NOV. I'm sorry, bought the NOV, sold the October, it looks like, to roll out this these long calls. It looks like they paid 50 cents for the calendar. Let's take a look at the open interest here. It can be tough to decipher these things sometimes. I'm going to look at the open interest, and the open interest being is already 46,000, so it's very hard to tell what they're doing here. But the 20 calls, 16,020 of the 20 calls have traded, and 13,000 of the 19 calls. So let's take a look at NOV 20 calls and see what traded on those two. I mean, sometimes this can be illuminating. Sometimes it can just make things more confusing when you look at all the time in sales. But let's take a look and see what happened in NOV here. So I'm going to filter just for NOV now. And then we'll see if that helps at all. NOV 20 calls, 170. NOV 24 calls, 500 trade, 101. NOV 28 calls, 2,500 trade. NOV 28. NOV 21. Looks like it could be the NOV 21, 28. 1 by 2. So there's a lot trading in VIX land today. Looks, here we go. NOV 20 calls, 4,000, trade 174. That looks to be, it's on a spread as well. So let's look at, back this out to everything and look at what we've got here. So 10.04, something like that. So there's a lot going on in the VIX here. It's going to be hard for us to really decipher all this stuff, but safe to say people are doing stuff. So NOV 20 calls on a spread. It looks to be, once again, people are rolling. They're rolling this OC stuff out to NOV, and I think it's just long. It might be just they're rolling their long calls out. But a little bit hard for me to decipher. So let's tweet back at Matt here. Looking at time and sales, it is hard to decipher. I can't spell decipher. Decipher exactly is going on. Lots of volume. People are just rolling out their long 19 and 20 calls. However, some 1 by 2s are trading also. There we go. So anyway, just kind of writing back to this guy here, tweeting back to Matt about how the VVIX is up and how it's hard to decipher. Yeah, so that's what's going on in my world today. It's nice that the position is making money. However, you know, how low can the VIX go right now? We're just going to hang out here and ride the position for a while, I suppose. Contango over 10%. That bodes well long term for us. Most of our positions are pretty far out in time. There's always stuff to be concerned about, though, and if tomorrow there's a big spike, then I would think, maybe I should have covered my position. But for now, staying short, and we'll see if we can take out the all-time lows in UVXY. That would be a great thing. We are only like 3 points off the all-time lows, and if things continue like they're going, we could certainly get there as the market continues to rally. Oh, the other opportunity I did want to talk about before I let you go here is CVNA. I was talking about selling some out of the money calls, and CVNA was tweeting about that and talking about that on StockTwits, and people were saying, oh, it's going straight to 100. Guess what? CVNA has, when you look at the chart, it kind of looks like it sort of kind of just ran out of steam. I mean, this thing was up when everything else was down, and it just kind of seems like, it was pushing higher, and it just kind of, once again, seems like people, they're like, it's already so high. It's so hard to buy this when it's already gone up so much. And I just think it's just kind of fatigued, this whole Carvana thing. I mean, this is a company that's been losing money. Yes, it's expanding. Yes, it's got great, the CEO has been on TV, and he's, he puts a good face on the company, and it's got all this good news, but it's almost like all the good news has just peaked. And so we have it. It's gone back down to around 77, and those 100 calls that we were looking at maybe selling, or the 90 calls for, I was looking at the AUK 90 calls selling, or no, maybe it was I guess it was the SEP 90 calls selling for $1 before, are now lower, of course. With only 9 days to go, they are essentially worthless, 25 cents. So there you have it. Another missed opportunity. We could have sold some Carvana naked calls, but that was a little scary up there. But that's what happens with trading opportunities. They can be a little scary. Now, as the VIX goes lower, we see the futures are lagging behind the VIX, and they are extending outward. And so the more spot goes lower, where the future is not following it at the same pace, the more opportunity comes out in the VIX. And when you've got a term structure that's getting extended like this term structure is here, the beautiful thing about it, if you're short, is that even if the VIX pops, if the VIX were to pop a point right now, the term structure will still remain intact. The more we kind of extend in the term structure here, it doesn't even look that extended right now, but there's over a point between spot and the front month future, and there's a lot of room between spot and the second month future, and this just means that there is just more room for, if we get a pop in the VIX, it's going to take a pretty big pop to get up to that 17 level, right? So the more days we have in a rally, and now Contango definitely showing above 10%, the more days we rally, the more this structure provides shock absorbers to insulate us from a spike. The more the VIX has to actually move up to get to those futures. So it seems like every time we get into really good contango and everything seems to be going really great, something ruins it. So we'll see if that's the case this time. But for now, everything on track. Contango greater than 10% in the VIX term structure, which is music to the ears of short vol people, because the more days it stays like this, it's just decaying. The stuff is decaying, and it can't stay above 10% for that long without taking out the all-time low. So we'll see what happens. Exciting times for the short vol trade. There's always things that you could have done better. There's always missed opportunities out there, but be grateful for what you have, and I will see you in the next one.